Hi, and welcome to Craftbox for Sunday, September 2nd. Today we're going to take a look at the ending of a personal essay that was in the Sunday Review under the title, The Last Thing My Mom Asked. It was written by Sarah Lyall. In this really compelling, powerful essay, she's discussing the death of her mother and how she wanted to be able to help her mother but die more quickly. She had a terminal illness, but that this was illegal in New York for her to, say, give her an overdose or something like that. So this is how it plays out towards the end. I was really impressed with the way in which this personal memoir wove in other stories that have been important in her life to help her and her mom make sense of this really compelling, powerful moment for them. So it says, we're going to start here where it says, about 20 minutes later, she emerges from her drugged state. "I'm ready," she says clearly, "to fall asleep and not wake up." The next day, she wakes up. "This is how incompetent I am." "You swore this wouldn't happen, Sarah," she says, her voice vibrating with fury. "I'm so sorry, Mama," I say, crying as I drip more narcotics into her mouth with a syringe. She lies in Twilight for the next few days. But sometimes her eyes open in a panic and dart around full of fear. It feels as if everything has become very primal, requiring an instinct for improvisation I don't have. So I do what has always soothed me, ever since I was old enough to read. I pick up Charlotte's Web and read the last 2 chapters, aloud this time. The ones where Charlotte dies after living her singular, stylish life, and 3 of her chatty spider babies build little webs in the corner of the barn so they can stay with Wilbur the pig. I always cried when I read this part to my daughters, years ago when they were small, and I cry again as I read it to my mother. "You are not alone," I repeat. "You'll live on the way Charlotte does, through your grandchildren and their children. It's okay now. You can go." As I put the book away, I see that her eyes are closed, finally, and that her breathing has evened out so that it is shallow but calm. It takes one more day. There are, it turns out, many different ways to help someone die. Okay, so I was really taken with this sentence here that introduces these final moments where we get what her mother looks like, and then we get how she feels in response. And even though what she's done here is improvisational, even though she looks around her and just sort of improvs in this moment about what would soothe her, what could possibly soothe her mother, she says that she feels that everything's become primal, requiring an instinct for improvisation that she doesn't have. But then she goes forward with this story, and it is full of improvisation, and it is full of meaning for her. And this is a really powerful way that literature reoccurs and appears in a lot of different personal memoirs. Sometimes people think when it's time to write a personal essay about themselves or about a time in their life that they're supposed to just tell their own story. But often it is through the narratives of other stories that we make sense of our lives. And so this is an example of how when she, in a very brief way, has a brief summary of what happens in those chapters, and then moves to her response and moves to the message that she wants to repeat, that she wants to use to make sense of her narrative, that you're not alone and that you live on, and that this is something that can possibly assuage the panic of death. These are the things that create really meaningful connections with literature. It isn't always about what you think the text means, but instead is what the text meaning can bring to helping you understand the meaning of your own life. So we're always telling stories, and we're always using stories to figure out where we stand, to figure out what makes sense for us. And this personal essay has done a really wonderful job of showing how that interbreeding of other stories with our own story happens in personal essays. Thanks for listening.